welcome back to another episode of Salmon's Pizzeria. This is a brand new series that we're going to be running over the course of the next month or so, just previewing the season from other teams and hopefully getting along a couple of podcasts and friends along the way. And I'm delighted for our debut episode. We've got Matty from the Longbangers podcast to preview the Hibs season. Matty, how are you doing?
I'm very well, yeah. It's a really hot day, isn't it? Like, it's one of these days where you think podcasting is probably not the thing you should be doing. You should be out with a beer and a coat, like a nice beer garden somewhere. But happy to be here. Thanks for asking me on. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I completely concur with you. I've literally, I was hoping to catch Andy Murray. We were recording on the day Andy Murray's playing the doubles, right? So I was hoping to catch in his doubles. Nadal's game's going on for ages, so my beers are in the fridge ready. So hopefully we'll catch a little bit of it towards the end.
Decent.
And we'll jump straight in then for Hibs. I guess we'll start off because I do want to touch a little bit on last season if we can as well. And well, I mean, you probably don't, but we have to. But just before we do, where are you sitting in terms of hopes and expectations for the season ahead this season?
For this season, the bar's low, I think. I think Hibs have done a really good job of sort of managing everybody's expectations downwards. Whether that's on purpose or by accident, I don't know. But had you asked me, like as we were heading into the end of the season, and there was all the discussion about like the investment that came in for Bill Foley, probably would be thinking we would have had a really good tilt at third or fourth this season. As it is, I think fifth is probably where we'll end up. But it could go either way. Like we might be slightly better, or we might end up bottom six again.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. I mean, it's always good to have the bigger teams battling, isn't it? It makes it so exciting. And just if we do touch to last season, Nick Montgomery comes in. Obviously, Lee Johnson has had the helm before this. Doesn't start off too well. There's the three early losses in the league. You do get through in Europe to the Villa game without a bit of a scrape along the way from the Andorran team as well. Nick Montgomery comes in, obviously A-League champion with Central Coast Mariners, born in England, but has played for the under-21s of Scotland, the futures of Scotland. So he's got that knowledge at least of where we are and what we're doing here. How were you feeling when Nick Montgomery come in? Were you allowing yourself to be a bit excited by this because it was seen as this sort of attacking brand of football that was going to be coming into Hibs, or did you have any sort of reservations at all?
I had zero reservations. I was all on board the Nick Montgomery train from the word go. I think initially, when Lee Johnson was sacked, I thought it might have been the time to give David Gray the gig, and then Montgomery's name came up. And I did a bit of research, as you do with these things, and had a look at what he'd achieved at Central Coast. And there was a great wee documentary on YouTube which sort of followed their playoff win against Melbourne City and hammered them. And you thought, this is a guy that can get a team punching above its weight. He's seems to be a great motivator, good tactician, and I was all in on it. Like I was champion. I was on the radio championing him and everything. So yeah, if ever I proved I could be spectacularly wrong on something, it was then.
In terms of Nick as well, were there? I mean, it's someone like yourself that was all in, and you see it all the time with fans. Where were the early signs of issues for you? Because you do tend to sort of kick the can down the road a little bit, and because you want to give this manager more time and more time and more time. But where were the issues for you that started you first maybe turned a little bit?
So I had a conversation. So it was like a private conversation on WhatsApp. I probably like voiced it on the podcast a bit later than I voiced it sort of behind the scenes.
Right.
And I was playing devil's advocate a wee bit with a group of guys that come on the podcast every now and again. I just said, do you know, if you were looking at this subjectively, should we be worried about the direction that we're going? And everybody went, don't be stupid. And I thought, yeah, don't be stupid. I don't think, we need to be worried. But I thought there were games that were just boring. And I was sitting and finding myself week in, week out, goodness, not all of them. Like we had the odd bright spot, but spend more time looking at my phone, talking about the game on
Yeah.
WhatsApp or on Twitter than watching the game because the game just wasn't engaging at all. So as the season went, and I think we had the 3-0 loss to St Mirren just at the turn of the year, and it was the worst performance I've seen from a Hibs team for, well, by that point, about for weeks, for a long time, really. Like it had been ages since we'd seen like such a shocker. And I think that was the point where I kind of went, this guy's not got it. And I found it very hard to back him after that. Try as we might, I mean, I'm always forgiving managers time, but I think we just got progressively worse. And we signed a load of players in January who were meant to be like a level above what Hibs could get. When Malida came in with Marcondes from Bournemouth, and we got worse. Like we continued to go down the table rather than getting better. And I thought that was like kind of pretty damning for Montgomery. It's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Couldn't agree more there. And we are going to get onto this season, I promise, and touch on David Gray as well. But you mentioned it a little bit earlier, the Bill Foley situation, the Black Knight Football Club investment. Macondes maybe one of the benefits from that. Maybe blew a little hot and cold, but you could see he's a bit of a special player as well, and certainly someone that maybe the influencers brought him to Hibs from Bill Foley. What's your thoughts on that investment? Because obviously it's been coming out in the papers recently that those bizarre comments about Hibs following the model and they'd be in a better place if they did. Where are you sort of sitting on that right now?
Oh man, you probably don't want to get me started on this one. Uh, Again, I was all in on it. Like when it was first mooted, did a lot of research. Kind of had a look at what Foley was like, what was happening at Bournemouth, what was happening at his other clubs. Lorient were having like a pretty bad time of things. But similar to Hibs, he had a minority investment. He was letting them run the club as they were running it, as he did with Hibs and continues to do with Hibs. And then he was starting up in Auckland. He had these grand plans. The way that he talked about it all coming together makes sense to me. I think it's a good model. I was at the AGM when Ben Kensel pitched it to the shareholders to say these are the benefits that Hibs should see from being part of this group. And so yeah, good. Voted for it. It went through. So happy days. And then we get to this summer. We get a goalie on loan. We get a goalie who's barely played a first team game in however many years at Nottingham Forest. We signed two centre halves, both on freeze. Both look very good, but both on freeze. And then nothing. There's not a lot of other transfer activity, and all the noise for the club is we need to get players off the books first. And then Bill Foley comes out with his comments where he says, the other ownership party haven't listened to us. They would do better if they did listen to us, and I think they'll listen to us now. And then I believe Hibs briefed the press to say this was because they didn't want Malcolm Mackay and David Gray to go into the positions that they went into. So I kind of get baffled because one of the things that Hibs promoted as a big reason for coming aboard wasn't just the money, but it was to get the expertise and the knowledge for these guys who are have vast resources behind them. And then at the first opportunity to kind of tap into the resources, they've gone, we know better, and just done their own thing and annoyed them. So you think, do you want to be part of the group or do you not? Like, I'm not quite sure where everybody sees Hibs fitting in it. And it has all the hallmarks like a typical Hibs disaster where we get a billionaire on board and end up poorer than we were before.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Yeah, it's early days. Got to bear that in mind. Like it is early. It's only like 4 or 5 months in,
Yeah,
so there's still
exactly.
plenty of time for it to bear fruit.
Absolutely. And David Gray does become manager, whether or not Bill Foley wants that, we don't know. But it's good to see that the club aren't being pigeonholed into their decisions. That it is still, like you say, they're being allowed to run how they are. Club legend. How were you with that appointment then? I mean, you said you thought maybe before Nick Montgomery, it was probably the time to give it him. It's not the most sexiest appointment on paper, but I mean, from the outside, for me, I was like, oh, David Gray's getting a full crack at it. But it's every Hibs fan I speak to seemed they were fully on board with it.
I think it makes sense. I thought, like I said, I thought he might have got his chance the season before, but I understand why we went with Montgomery. But for this one, so it didn't help him that he was in the building already. Sorry, it didn't hurt him that he was already in the building. So we didn't have to go and pay compensation to get anybody in. But I don't think that was the key driver for it. He knows the club inside out. I think he has learned from the failures of other managers. He's been in quite a good position to see, almost like watch up close what mistakes everybody's been making to know what not to do when he got the chance at it. Club legend, like you mentioned. I mean, there's not a Hibs fan that isn't desperate to see David Gray succeed at the club in this role. But I think what we've seen from him, even in the short time that we've seen the Kelty Hearts game aside, which was a bit of an embarrassment. But other than that, we've played good attacking football, solid defensively. He's got more out of the team already than Nick Montgomery managed in however many months that he was in charge. So I'm pretty optimistic about David Gray's chances.
Amazing. Yeah, like I say, I always find it hard though when the club legend comes in because, like you say, you want them to do well, like it's so badly that it's that fear. What if they don't? And
Yeah,
where do they then? Where does their ranking go in club legendhood? So
well, we had that before with Frank Sosie. Like Frank Sosie, one of the best
Susie,
players I've ever seen in a Hibs shirt. Horrendous manager. I mean, I think he got 9 games, 19 games, something like that. And if you ask any Hibs fan, they never go, "Oh, Frank Sosie, the hopeless manager." They just call, "Oh, Sosie, like
yeah, that's
God."
true. Yeah.
So I think the same with David Gray. It doesn't really matter for him and his stand and what happens.
Fair enough. And let's start on this season. Then we'll start the League Cup. 3 wins and a loss, which we're going to get to, unfortunately. All teams Hibs should beat on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but the manner of the wins, the goal scoring, like you mentioned, has that heightened your confidence this season? Has the Kelty result damaged that a little bit? Like where are you sitting just based on that sort of League Cup preview we got?
Yeah, I think the Celtic game was the leveler to stop you getting carried away. I mean, we made 6 changes to the team, and it showed we have no strength and depth. That was like kind of the awakening, and it was very similar to some of the performances we'd seen under Montgomery, in that we had a lot of the ball, didn't really do that much with it. I mean, we created a lot of chances, and on another day we would have won comfortably, but we didn't, and we conceded a sloppy goal from, like, they had 3 chances and scored one, had one off the line. It just showed like these are the weaknesses that Hibs have had for so long. But when we've been good, we've been really good. You just have to take into consideration the level of the opponent. I mean, Elgin, Peterhead, and Queens Park are not teams that would expect to beat Hibs. With no disrespect to them, I mean, that's the same if they were playing Hearts or Aberdeen or Kilmarnock or whoever. Like, you would expect the Premier League team to beat them. But we've been really comfortable. We've barely had um, like a chance against us. Never mind goals against us. So we conceded 2 in across the campaign. We never looked like conceding any more than that. So I think it's been positive, if not
Yeah,
spectacular.
yeah, no, I was saying is that they've certainly, even though, like you mentioned, that you're playing teams leagues below or league below, but it's still you can still say it's impressive. I think when the
Mhm.
manner of the wins and the attacking football on display. Signings I want to touch on, like you say, is obviously the money maybe is not going out on them in terms of transfer fees, but the type of signing Marvin. I never know. Listen, this guy on Football Manager has been a beast for me over the years, and I always called him Ekpiteta. Is that the proper
Yeah,
pronunciation?
I think so. I've sort of call him Ekpateta saved my life, which is, I don't know if you ever watched Shooting Stars when you may be too young for Shooting Stars. I don't know, but
Well,
George
yeah, I
Dawes
was a
did
kid.
a song about a baked potato. Baked potato saved my life,
Yeah,
and so Ekpateta saved my life. That is how he's now known in the Longbangers world. Um, he's been really good. A headache
yeah,
kick at defender, which we've been missing. So anything comes in the box just sort of gravitates towards his coupon, and he clears it. We desperately needed that in our centre defence.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just looking at him as well. Blackpool Player of the Year in the 21-22 Championship season, which is no mean feat. And yeah, he looks an absolute beast. And then just moving back, we're staying in the defence obviously, but moving back one position in Marshall retires. A need for a new keeper, like you mentioned, Jordan Smith comes in, who's sort of bounced around on loan from Forest to lower league teams. Obviously, he's been brought in as a number 2 by the looks of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in on loan comes Joseph Bursic from Club Bruges, who again talking championship, 50 games in the championship for over 50 games in the championship for Stoke City. 10 England under 21 appearances, and he's literally just turned 24 as well. So on paper, this seems some signing for Hibs. How's he looked early doors?
It's looked good, but we have only seen him in action a couple of times though, because
Yeah,
he's not had a lot to do. He never played against Kelty, um, and yeah, the other games he's been pretty redundant. But we played Pauk or PAOK, depending on how you say it. I'm told it's Pauk. in pre-season, and they were really dominant in the game, and Hibs had to do a lot of defending, and he played well in that one. That was probably our biggest sample size to see what kind of keeper we'd got. Good with the ball at his feet, and he looks like a proper shot stopper. So, and happy to come for the ball for crosses as well, which last season we missed that as well. Marshall was kind of reluctant to come off his line. So yeah, pretty impressed on the very small sample size that we have.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think that's the same with a lot of Son, isn't it? It is so early in the season. You don't really know what you've got until we're going to get into the season. But just on paper, they're seeming smart signings. And you do wonder when, it just for me when I was looking at the Hibs signings, it was sort of like it went like this, but it's not even gone down. It's just leveled off, isn't it? There's
Yeah.
no one's coming in the door at the moment, and that seems to be the big problem.
Yeah, there's a couple of rumours that kicking about Twitter tonight that we might be about to sign Kukarevic back on loan for the season from Swansea. He was excellent when he was at Hibs the season before. Had the season curtailed by injury a wee bit, but when he was fit, he looked a real handful. So I'd be quite happy if he came back. But yeah, there's not a lot sort of happening, or even when we've had a few rumours like the guy that just signed for Kilmarnock, whose name escapes me right now. There's been other teams in for them, and then we seem to be losing out. So
Yes, yeah. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna pronounce the second. It's Corey, isn't it? It's Corey.
yeah,
Yeah, they had the great announcement video for him as well. The four yeses. It was very good. So with all that in mind, I know you sort of said you may be thinking maybe fifth in terms of what's going on so far. Is the target, I guess, always for you naturally Europe? Is that what you're thinking just from start, even after the poor season last season?
yeah, and Hibs sort of set their stall out to get European football. I mean, to achieve the ambitions that the board talk about, they need European football every season. Um, it's such a weird time. We talked about this a lot on the podcast about what the club do, because our turnover was down massively because we had such a poor season last season, and I think that's why we're not seeing money spent on the squad that we might have expected to during this transfer window. So they almost have this sort of dilemma to say, do we cut our cloth and hope David Gray works his magic and gets Europe with the squad that he's got, or do we take a chance and try and bring in a couple of players who are, top four, top three SPFL level, and make a real push for Europe and gamble that we get it this season, and then we don't have to worry about the money because we know it's coming in. At the moment, it looks like they're cutting their cloth, and I just think that's going to make David Gray's job really, really difficult to get European football this season. But fifth might do it. Like if depending on who wins the Scottish Cup and how that all works out, I think fifth might still get a European spot, and we might get in through the back door like we did the season before.
Yeah, fair enough. And perfect sort of segue then into what do you think Hibs still need this season, player wise? What do Hibs still need this position to sort of achieve the goals? If not a blank check, but if on a budget, what do you think that you're going to need, and B would be a really realistic possibility?
So I think we need a minimum of two strikers. So we have Dylan Venti and Harry McCurdy, who are like our natural forwards at the moment. McCurdy's really struggled to string games together, be that through illness, fitness, injury, or just not being fancied. And Dylan Venti has yet to really sort of catch fire at Hibs. He's had moments where he's looked like he's going to be a really strong number 9, and other times it's just not worked out for him. So he needs competition or somebody to play alongside him. Kukovic would be a good foil for him, and then we need somebody else in as cover. I think Eli Yuan's probably going to get sold as well, so that makes it more important that we bring in two forwards. And then the other position I think we're really crying out for is left back. We've got Jordan Abita there just now, but after him, there's no cover at left back. So at best we need or at worst we need a squad player. If we can find somebody better than Obita, then great, we can make him the squad player. But I would settle for backup.
Yeah, definitely. And on transfer rooms, I mean, obviously the Ukrainian striker has been rumored. Are there any other rumours floating about in the Hibs transfer world that you've heard that you're excited about?
There is. Let me just see if I can quickly find the guy's name because it has totally gone from my head. There was another striker um, who was due to come up from down south. I think he's been playing in England and wants to move up north again. Um, do you know what? I can't see the hand. I'll not take your time trying to search it on here.
It's
Um,
okay.
but I think this is one of these transfers that's probably quite good on paper. Whether or not it materialises, I believe there's a few other clubs that are sniffing around, and that doesn't bode well for us.
No, but if they weren't, you'd be wondering why no one else was, I guess.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
shoot for the stars. That's what I say. You never know. And do Hibs? I mean, are Hibs, in your opinion, is the squad size decent right now? Or I mean, I know you were saying before that it seems like they think it's maybe a bit bloated. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah. We're high on numbers and low on quality, I would say. So we've got a lot of players that I think if Hibs had the option of moving them on today, they would quite happily just cull the squad um, and free up a lot of wage budget. But we'll have guys like Noah Kenna, for example, who has kind of been out on loan a couple of times. He's come back into the club, unlikely to play. Um, well, we have them kind of scattered right across the team. McCurdy might be another example of that. Is somebody who's not really kind of contributing too much. So the numbers are there, but as we saw against Kelty, the quality isn't.
Yeah, that's fair enough. McCurdy is someone that when I watched him last season, I was thinking there's no way he's going to make it. And I know it's the League Cup. I think it was mainly one set of highlights I saw from the League Cup, but I thought he looked unbelievable. So
He
I don't
has
know if
that in
he is he
him.
just got these moments in him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's only scored a couple of goals for Hibs. He scored against Watford the other night, which was he sort of intercepted a headed back pass from Porteous, who laid it on a plate for him accidentally, rounded the keeper and tucked it away. He scored a worldie against Edinburgh City in a friendly. And you know what? I think the whole Hibs support, myself included, would love to see him come good. Hibs fans love a wee bit of maverick, or somebody's a wee bit rage, and McCurdy definitely sort of falls into that bracket. It just, yeah, it's not gone his way since he came up, but I think everybody would be delighted for him if it worked out. I hope it does.
Yeah, definitely. And just before we sort of come on to, I guess there are more predictions now towards the end of this. Just another player to touch on. Josh Campbell is someone that he's sort of had a really strong start and then he's leveled off and then he picks back up and then he levels off again. Where's Josh Campbell sort of? What do you see coming out of the Hib support in terms of Josh Campbell?
Uh, I think Campbell suffers from having come through the ranks and not being spectacular all the way through. I think he's a really solid player. I really like Josh Campbell. I think David Gray rates him and sort of sees him as an integral part of the team this season. We did our predictions show last night, and I tipped him to be our top scorer. I did say we would
Wow.
get like 18 goals, which I was just kind of getting carried away with myself then. But um, he's got that. He's like a proper box to box player. I really like him. You never get anything less than 100% effort from him. He's a proper goal threat, and I think this season he's realised he's no like the young player anymore, and so he's trying to take on a wee bit more responsibility, and I think that'll do him good as well.
Amazing. And then a little bit of prediction for you. So you might be repeating yourself from last night a little bit, but and it might even be Josh Campbell this answer. But who's the player you're expecting to have a big impact this year for the Hib squad?
Warren O'Hora, centre half that we just signed. He's looked terrific. Like in all the games that I've seen him play, I thought he's been a standout. And then my wild card would be Nathan Mariah Welsh in midfield. So we signed him in January from Bournemouth, and he's a proper wee buzz bomb about the pitch. Like he just gets stuck in, and um, I think once he finds his feet in the team and settles into it, I think he'll be a great player for us.
Yeah, and obviously he's had the sort of Chelsea upbringing as well, isn't he? And I know he was down with a few of the London teams, so big sort of heritage in those boots to live up to. Same sort of questions in terms of the younger players. Is there anyone you're expecting maybe from the academy or that's already around the first team squad that are going to step up this year for her?
So Rudy Molotnikov is featured a lot in the League Cup games. Played on the left wing for a young lad. He's properly built. I mean, he's got the physique of a fully grown adult. Bill looks very, very comfortable in the ball. Already been creating and scoring goals for us since coming in. He hasn't looked out of place at all. And then the young lad McAllister, who was Jamie McAllister, the assistant coach last season, his son. I think he will break through this season as well and impress.
Yeah, was McAllister the one there was a big sort of thing about signing him when he was the assistant manager and actually getting him up the road?
Yeah, we spent a bit of money on him, which for a youth player is unlike Hibs. We don't do it that often. We do it, but probably not for somebody who was as young as he was. Yeah, there's kind of high expectations of him, but I think he'll live up to it. He's definitely looked very comfortable in the team when he's played.
Very good to see. And then obviously St Mirren is the first game of the season for yourselves. They will be coming off the back of a European tie. They've obviously just been to us, and they've got the return leg at it's at St Mirren on Thursday. What's your prediction right now then for that game? How are you thinking that one's going to go?
So I think we'll win. I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think we'll win. We had the reverse fixture last season when we were just off the back of a European tie. It was one of the ones that Lee Johnson lost, and St Mirren were well worth the win that day. I think they battered us for about 40 minutes. Hibs had a spell where we got a couple of goals back, and then we got battered again. I just think it's a lot for clubs like Hibs and Mirren to deal with the Sunday, Thursday European football, and then you chuck the league games in to that as well. Unless you've got a huge squad, it can be quite a challenge. We definitely suffered last season. St Mirren took advantage, and so I'm thinking roles reversed this year, and 1-0 Hibs.
Excellent. I did include sort of 1-2 questions at the end, right? Just like a quick fire, fun questions. Mainly because I imagine we're going to have a couple of people come on that aren't the most confident for the season ahead. I'm trying to pick it back up at the end. You have been delightful, so it's not as bad, but I'll still ask them anyway. It's just two quick questions. Your all-time favourite Hibs player?
John McGinn.
Oh,
Would
wow.
you say Frank Sosie, but I think I like McGinn more.
Amazing.
Sacrilege that, but
superstar,
yeah, John McGinn, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just going through the 90s Hibs teams as well. It was crazy, like Lappy and Sosie and stuff like that.
Unreal. What a team.
And I imagine I know the answer to this, but your all-time favourite game?
We had a 0-0 against Johnson. No, yeah, it was definitely the Scottish Cup final.
Yeah.
We completed football that day. As a Hibs fan, having I was 2016, so 40. Obviously never seen the team win. Had taken pelters for it for years and years and years. I think when it got to 100 years, that's when the abuse really started cranking up. I thought it was never ever going to happen. To do it the way that we did it against Rangers, injury time goal. I will never have a football experience like that again in my life. I can't think of anything that will ever top that. I would have been as well just given up there and then.
Well, yeah, it's last minute goals are always carnage, right? But to win a cup final, I don't think it does get any better than that.
Absolute bedlam.
I can imagine. Matty, it's been absolutely fantastic, an absolute joy to have you on for our first one in this new series. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best for the season ahead, and hopefully we'll speak again soon somewhere down the line.
Thank you very much.